In ancient China around 2,500 years ago, a marshal was attacking an enemy state. The enemy state sent people to cook his son and send the cooked son to him. He ate a bowl in front of the envoy, showing that he didn't care. The emperor rewarded him for his merits but suspected his motives. So the emperor promoted him but took away his military power. People who can do things that go against human nature are unpredictable. The marshal's act of eating his son, which violated ethical and common-sense norms, demonstrated the complex side that human nature might show under extreme circumstances. One cannot simply and completely judge a person's character based on their superficial behavior or a momentary performance. It also reminds us to be vigilant about the unpredictable factors in other people's human nature. It was precisely because of the marshal's such act that the emperor in the story detected his unpredictability and then took corresponding measures. The marshal might have originally gained the emperor's trust through his merits, but this astonishing act of his broke that trust. This also shows that the establishment of trust is a long-term process that requires careful maintenance. Once one does something that is difficult for others to understand or accept, it may instantly destroy the trust relationship that has been painstakingly built. Therefore, we should always maintain the trust with others through behaviors that conform to moral norms and common sense. Around 500 years ago, the imperial court resettled most of the surrendered northern ethnic minority tribes together. After many years, these tribes formed a large group. When the northern tribes launched attacks, they all wanted to take the opportunity to stir up trouble and almost caused unrest. When the imperial court was about to dispatch troops to suppress the bandits in the western and southern regions, the Minister of National Defense suggested sending those well-known tribes to fight alongside the army and giving them more rewards. After the bandits were suppressed, he further suggested that those tribes be left in the local area. Thus, the huge hidden danger of the tribes that had accumulated over decades was eliminated all at once. The imperial court was able to realize that the tribal group, which had been resettled together for many years, might take the opportunity to stir up trouble and cause unrest when the northern tribes attacked. This reflects a keen insight into potential crises. In real life, managing a team also requires such an ability to detect potential risks in advance so that preparations can be made before the problems worsen. The suggestions put forward by the Minister of National Defense, such as sending the well-known tribes to fight alongside the army and giving them rewards, as well as suggesting that they be left in the local area after the war, were all extremely clever ways to resolve hidden dangers. By having the tribes participate in the war, the backbone of the tribes was removed, and their energy was diverted. At the same time, giving them rewards satisfied some of their requirements. Leaving them in the local area after the war also enabled a reasonable resettlement, avoiding direct conflicts and the occurrence of unrest. This enlightens us that when facing complex and thorny problems, we should not simply adopt tough or laissez-faire measures. Instead, we should consider various factors comprehensively and look for clever and effective solutions to eliminate crises invisibly. Sending the tribes to fight alongside the army actually made rational use of the manpower of this group. Although they had been potential destabilizing factors, through proper arrangements, they were made into a force to help suppress unrest in other places. Through the reasonable resettlement of the tribes, the huge hidden danger of the tribes that had accumulated over decades was eliminated, laying the foundation for the long-term peace and stability of the region and the country. This tells us that when facing different groups or resources, even if there are some unfavorable factors, as long as they are properly utilized, they can be transformed into usable advantages and play an unexpected role. Moreover, we should not only focus on immediate interests or short-term effects, but also have a long-term perspective, taking into account the impact of our decisions on future development to achieve sustainable stability and development. The king and the prime minister were discussing the matter of attacking the state of Wei. After the court session ended, as soon as the consort of Wei saw the king, she immediately came down and knelt to plead guilty on behalf of the ruler of the state of Wei. The king asked her the reason, and she said, "When I saw you enter, your steps were lofty and your manner was imposing, showing the intention of attacking another state. After seeing me, your complexion changed, so it must be that you are going to attack the state of Wei. The next day when the king went to court, he humbly let the prime minister go first. The prime minister asked, "Does your majesty intend to cancel the plan to attack the state of Wei?" The king asked, "How do you know?" The prime minister said, "When you came to court, your attitude was humble, your tone was slow, and you looked ashamed when you saw me. That's how I knew." The consort of Wei was able to quickly notice the king's lofty steps and imposing manner when he entered, and then inferred that the king had the intention of attacking another state. This shows that she has an extremely sharp eye for the details of others' outward appearances, not missing any slight changes that might reveal the other person's thoughts, such as changes in facial expressions and steps. Moreover, she not only observed the king's initial state but also noticed the change in his complexion after seeing her, and was able to quickly correlate the before and after observations to accurately determine that the state the king was going to attack was her own native state of Wei. This ability to draw accurate conclusions through correlating multiple observation points is a very clever skill of reading facial expressions and gauging intentions. The prime minister also demonstrated excellent skills in this regard. When he was at court, he observed that the king's attitude was humble, letting him go first, and his tone was slow. Combining these with the fact that the king looked ashamed when he saw him, he comprehensively judged that the king was going to cancel the plan to attack the state of Wei. He didn't draw conclusions based on a single manifestation but comprehensively considered the changes in the king's behavior and manner in different aspects, thus arriving at a relatively accurate inference. The prime minister was able to discern the underlying intention from the king's seemingly ordinary behavioral manifestations, most likely based on his understanding of the king's usual way of doing things, his own rich political experience, and a certain degree of intuitive judgment. This way of combining experience and intuition to interpret the deeper meaning behind others' behaviors is also a very practical wisdom in interpersonal communication and political situations. After detecting the king's intention, the consort of Wei didn't choose to wait passively, but immediately came down and knelt to actively initiate communication with the king, pleading guilty on behalf of the ruler of the state of Wei. This active attitude in interpersonal communication often enables one to seize the initiative and avoid missing the best opportunity to express one's own thoughts and demands due to passivity. She tried to arouse the king's sympathy or pity by pleading guilty on behalf of the ruler of the state of Wei, using emotion as an entry point to influence the king's decision. When facing a situation that might be unfavorable to oneself, knowing how to use emotional factors to move the other party is a very effective strategy, especially in situations involving interpersonal relationships and the weighing of interests.
More detail, more story, follow me, please.